Hey everyone, it's Katie from Just Claying Around. It's time for my second Christmas tutorial. I'm going to show you how I make this little Christmas wreath charm. Start by rolling some green clay into a ball. I'm using Fimo Tropical Green for mine. Once it's rounded, use your work surface to flatten it out until it's about 1 centimetre in thickness. Now mark the centre with a needle tool before using a larger tool to make the hole bigger. Push this tool all the way down to the work surface and then use gentle circular motions to help stretch that hole open and make it bigger. Then use a silicone tip tool to help smooth and flatten those edges out. This doesn't need to be perfectly smooth either, I'll show you why in a moment. Now use a dotting tool to create some leafy looking texture on the wreath. Do this by pressing lots of little dots all over the clay until it's completely covered. Now it's time to add the eye pin. If you're like me, you may need to cut one down to size before you can use it. Also remember, this will need to be glued in after baking but before glazing. Now it's time to add all the details for the face. Use a dotting tool to make the holes for the eyes. If you'd like to see my full Kawaii face tutorial, I'll link it in the description. This part's all ready now, it's time to put it aside and move on to making some Christmas lights. First, roll some black clay out long and thin. Make sure to cut off the thicker ends at each side before using this. Then apply 4 lines of bacon bond to the wreath where you would like your Christmas lights to hang. Now carefully lay the black clay over each line. Use a silicone tip tool to help you stick it down and use a knife to cut it as you go. Now it's ready to make and add the light bulbs. Feel free to choose whatever colours you might like for the lights. Start by rolling each colour out long and thin. I'm working lightest to darkest to avoid as much colour contamination as I can. Cut it up into small pieces and then roll each small piece into an oval shape. Then use your index finger and thumb to pinch one end into a point. Once you've made all the lights, you can now apply a few dots of bacon bond where you'll be sticking them onto the piece. I'm only going to add 3 lights to each one of my strings. I didn't want to overcrowd it. Feel free to add more if you like and you have more space on yours. Now gently stick them on one at a time by pressing them down so they won't fall off. Now use some tools to go along the edge of the black clay to straighten it up and clean off any bacon bond that might have squished out. It's almost finished. One last step is making the bow. To make the bow, roll out 3 balls of clay, 2 big and 1 small. Again, you can choose whatever colour you'd like to use for this. Start with the 2 bigger pieces first, roll them into balls and then flatten them out, then use your thumb and index finger to shape one end into a point. Now use a needle tool to add some creases to the bow. Now for the middle piece, roll it into a ball and then flatten it out with your fingers, and then use your work surface to help you shape it into a rounded square. Do this by rotating it around and pressing lightly on each side until it starts to form into a square. It can be a slow process, but if you're doing it right, you'll eventually start to see the shape. Now use your fingers to press it the rest of the way into a rectangle shape. Now apply a thin layer of bacon bond to the wreath where you're going to be sticking the bow, starting with the outer edges of the bow first. Now use a dotting tool to press down an area in the middle where you'll be placing the centre of the bow. This will also help stick the edges down as well. Now stick the middle piece on, pressing it down and securing it with your finger. Clean off any large amounts of bacon bond that you see squished out. You don't have to be too thorough with this because it will bake clear. Once you've done that part, it's all ready to bake. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. And remember to like and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more.